want to, okay, I see her, okay. Yes, ma'am. Make sure you heard that item number 5 is going to be held. I don't know if she can hear me. Gotcha. Oh, okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I've got 7 o'clock straight up. We'll go ahead and bring him. Please, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, please turn your cell phones to the silent position. Sure appreciate it. Thank you. Okay. Okay. At this time, we'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. Go ahead, Ms. Ray, would you call the roll of the City Council?
The Honorable Mayor Pro Tem James Whitmore.
Present.
The Honorable Linda J. Davis.
Present.
The Honorable Alex Heath.
Present.
The Honorable Samantha Hudson.
She's present.
The Honorable Hattie Portis Jones.
Present.
The Honorable Ulysses J. Smallwood.
Present.
Okay.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you so much. Everyone can please stand for the invocation. Pastor Maurice Howell of New Horizon will give an invocation. Go ahead, sir.
Use the mic.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, for having us, City Councilman. We give God the glory for all you representatives who are here, and plus the military. I'm retired Lieutenant Colonel myself. Father, you who embrace the whole universe, and you who orchestrate the four corners of this earth, we who are your subjects, your servants, stand in need of asking you for favor and for healing of the souls that are victims of the hurricane. We recognize that we are so blessed, but we don't know why you selected some and avoided others. But we do plead the blood of Jesus for mercy. In the name of Jesus, I am praying. And so, God, you who orchestrates everything, have allowed us this opportunity together with this meeting with the Honorable Mayor and the City Council and officials of this community, that you keep them under the moral fabric of justice, honesty, and love. This we need throughout the community. We thank you for the awesome job that's been done in this community under the leadership of the mayor and the city council and all that embrace this community. You, God, and God alone, we thank you for all that you've done, and we ask for mercy of those who are losing loved ones as I'm visiting the hospitals and watching people take their last breath. But yet we are still here. We close this prayer with our arms locked around you. And we pray that you do as you commanded. You will keep a heavy hand on us. In Jesus Christ's mighty name we pray. Amen.
He got you in the spirit, huh?
Can I entertain a motion to adopt the city council agenda for tonight?
So moved. Second.
Motion is made by Mr. Smallwood, second by Mr. Eads. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. One second. While we're waiting, we still have 15 people.
We have 15
Okay.
public comments.
And again, our next portion of our meeting will be public comment again, as I mentioned earlier. If, so that many of you want to speak during the public hearing. For those that came in late, that item, I'm assuming that many of you want to speak about the item number 5, I believe is. And so in this case, because the item is going to be held, and again, we want the zoning, we have zoning card comments because we want to make sure that's part of the record. And so again, we ask you to please, we're going to have a public hearing at our next meeting, but the developer also has to come back to the community for a community meeting. And so you can see the young lady standing in the back to my left, your right, with comment cards if you want to give us a written comment, and we'll collect them all today. So with that being said, we'll go to the next portion of our meeting. In this case, the public comment, 30 minutes shall be available for public comment. Each speaker shall be limited to 3 minutes. However, a speaker may transfer his or her 3 minutes to another speaker, but no speaker shall be permitted to speak for more than 6 minutes. Further, in the event, if there's more than 10 speakers, which at this point we have 15, so there'll be 30 minutes, we'll go down to 2 minutes per person. And again, issues raised at this time are generally referred to the city administrator for review. Responses will be provided at a later date. With that being said, members of council held the city council minutes that commenced on September the 23rd. Can I entertain a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made.
Second.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I abstained because I was absent.
Okay, yeah, abstain, absolutely. With that being said, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Okay. At this time, we've approved the minutes, so at this point, we'll go to our first item.
Mayor,
To the comment.
we need to do the public comments.
I'm sorry, got ahead of myself, I'm sorry. Can I come to the first speaker? I apologize.
Yes, I believe this is Brianka Huff. Okay.
Okay,
The second speaker is Ernie Brooks.
Hey, y'all, good evening.
yes, sir.
I received in my utility bill a notification about the Love Thy Neighbor program, and I've already witnessed that because you helped out a neighbor across the street, and I appreciate you doing that. And, you know, I was just thinking maybe in a collaborative, collective effort, showing love to some of our corporate neighbors. For example, CSX, I don't know if y'all see what I see, but there's railroad ties that have been there at 74 and 29 for over 10 years. Pine trees are growing through them and briars. And as you go to Palmetto, look over there on the side of the track and look at all the debris. Maybe we need to have an effort to help CSX pick up all that trash. And you know, thinking about the dump, that's sort of like a biohazard, a biolab up there in Rockdale County, ain't it? Every day. It was on fire. They get it every 10 years. We get it every day. And the thing about it is you can cap that. You can tap it and use it as energy and create electricity, believe it or not. So if, and I know now a lot of residents don't know that you've already approved the expansion of the dump because they're acquiring more acreage. Yeah. So coming up this way to downtown Fairburn, I was thinking, man, you know, this template that they use from the Atlanta Regional Commission, that all little cities need to fit this template, it ain't working in Fairburn with the concrete divider that's got mulch and no plants. And, you know, what about them crooked benches? How about showing some love with the Department of Transportation and get the lights in sync at 29 and 92? I mean, help me feel the love. Anyway, I appreciate what you do. I know I get kind of long-winded and worked up, but I try to stay rational. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Next speaker.
The next speaker is Julie Scarborough.
Yes, thank you so much. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Nicole Rush. Okay. The next speaker is Pat Palland. Okay. The next speaker is Honey Williams.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm not going to hold the mic.
We need it for the audience, online audience.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was here the last meeting, city council meeting.
Right.
And obviously, I'm so vain. I'm not really vain. But I thought people knew me. Well, lately I found out people don't know me. No one can put me up to talk. No one. No one. Not the mayor, not my sister. I don't have any brothers. I don't have any children. And I'm divorced. I speak my mind. I speak my heart. I know who I am, and I know whose I am. So I want Fairburn, because it's not just one person, it's not just two persons. There's a lot of people here in Fairburn that I thought really knew me. Putting out that the mayor, I love him dearly. I'm older than him. I'm bigger than him. He can't put me up to say anything. He can't pay me to say anything. I want that known. Please know. And if you know me, you know I will speak up when I have to. I don't agree on everything. I don't agree with everybody. But I'm peaceful. I am outspoken, and I talk a lot.
10 seconds.
I'm through.
You guys, no, I don't, okay. I wasn't trying to cut you off. I was just giving you.
Did you hear me? Say that again?
They can't see that clock.
Oh, they called it. I thought it. Honey Williams. That's H-O-N-I. Honey Williams. I live here in Fairburn. Love me some Fairburn. I've been here. Chief Basilio, how long I've been here? Oh my. Say that. Well, when I came to get the water, when we had the water outage, she told
Yes,
me
yes,
17 years, and I
yes.
think that's been a couple of years. So we'll go with 20 years. I've been here 20 years. I love Fairburn.
The next speaker is Teresa Garrett.
Good evening. I'm going to ask for a little grace. I am 1 week post-op from oral surgery, but I wanted to be here tonight because it was important for me to speak up for those who cannot be here tonight. I want to start with the end in mind. Every elected official in this country, including our next Madam President, work at the pleasure of the taxpayers. And our mayor and city council, along with planning and zoning, and everyone that is on the Fairburn payroll should always keep in mind that the taxpayers are the citizens and the corporate citizens in this community who are paying salaries and keeping this city running. And while I understand that public comment for the land forum is happening in a couple of weeks, my schedule will not align for me to be here. My overall passion and conviction this evening is to keep at the forefront of all your decisions for this city and community, of what's best for the citizens and the taxpayers, which I understand from one of our July sessions that I attended, that we are paid 110% of the taxes due to the community, to the city. That is something to be applauded on the backs of the taxpayers. Let us always keep that in mind. Let us not forget that we live here. This is where we are building our families. This is where we are creating a livelihood for ourselves. This is where we are creating communities with our neighbors. I have a new neighbor that moved in January with 7 dogs. And while I was excited for a new neighbor, I didn't anticipate 7 dogs, and I've fallen in love with those 7 dogs. We're going to be neighbors for a long time because I know how much she paid for her house. We're building a community. Let us always keep that in mind with all decisions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Tom Tyson.
Good evening. My name is Tom Tyson. I'm here on behalf of Wendy's. We are currently in the process of asking for consideration to relocate the freestanding monument sign due to the property being condemned by the Georgia Department of Transportation. The owner, Matt Van Papigan, is present with me. The restaurant opened in 2002. And we just would like to have consideration for approval to relocate the sign. We appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next speaker.
The next speaker, pardon me, but Matt Van Herf.
Matt is the owner. He's not able to speak tonight.
Okay, great, great. The next speaker is Derry Moore. Dari? Okay, okay. The next speaker is Mamie Conley. Okay. The next speaker is Gail Sykes. Gail Sykes.
Shit.
The next speaker is Dwight Miles and Karen Turner. Okay. Next speaker is Vicki Gibson. And the last one is Noah Ballard. Oh, we'll come up to the mic.
No, it's fine. We'll wait for you. You can just come straight up. Yes, ma'am. You signed up for to speak in public comment.
I thought that was just signing to, that you're here. But I'm actually here regarding the Meadow Glen.
Okay. We'll actually have a public.
I have to,
You'll get a chance to speak about that during a public hearing. That's our very first item. Yes, ma'am. So please don't go anywhere.
all right.
Okay.
And the last speaker was Noah Ballard. Was there a Noah Ballard? I'll speak at the next public meeting. Okay, great. Mayor, that's all of the public comments.
Okay. All right. At this point, we'll have our first item, was reciting, then let the planning director come up.
Number 2 is the Meadow Glen Village rezoning. This is a recommendation to request mayor and council approve the concurrent variance and the rezoning request with the enclosed conditions listed in the proposed ordinance. The rezoning request conforms with the future development map, which designates the site as highway mixed use.
Go ahead, yes, ma'am.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
The item before you is a rezoning request from PD to PD. The item is located along 74. The applicant is also requesting a concurrent variance. The applicant is requesting to rezone 23 acres. The applicant is requesting to rezone a portion of a master plan development in lieu of the commercial development that was proposed and approved with the 1998 ordinance. The current proposal is to develop a mixed-use community on a portion of the property, which would include a maximum of 12,000 square feet of retail, office, institutional, and 364 multi-family units.
Okay. What I'm gonna do at this time, I'm gonna actually open the public hearing.
She's not done.
Oh, were you? Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm done. I got a lot more.
Oh, I apologize. Saw the lady.
So the original ordinance was approved in 1998, and the original ordinance included a single-family development, an industrial development, commercial, and multifamily. The industrial development is adjacent to the single-family. The multifamily development and commercial pieces are closer to 74. Most of the development has already been constructed except for the commercial piece, and the commercial piece specifically prohibits gas station in the ordinance, but does allow gas stations with convenience. So that was the exact language in the 1998 ordinance. The applicant came quite a few months ago and requested some feedback on what we'd heard from the community. One of those things was to have sit-down restaurants, to have green space, especially on this side of town. We've heard from quite a few residents regarding some of the amenities that they want, so we tried to make sure as much feedback as we received from the general public that was incorporated into the proposed development. The applicant did provide elevations, elevations for the multifamily development and also for the commercial piece. So again, the applicant is proposing a commercial office and institutional development closer to 74 with the green space and 364 units. There are quite a few standards when we're looking at a rezoning request. Does it align with the comprehensive plan? Does the request align with the goals and policies set forth in the comprehensive plan? Does the applicant look at things like transportation? In this instance, the applicant did provide a traffic study that was approved by our Public Works Community Development, Fire, Utilities. Every single department had an opportunity to review it, and no comments were provided with regard to denying the request. So after looking at all of the rezoning standards, there were a couple of updates. Typically with a rezoning of this magnitude up until as close to the public hearing, there are quite a few back and forths between the applicant and staff. We did have 2 neighborhood meetings. The applicant reached out to everyone within close proximity to the development and hosted 2 meetings, and in those 2 meetings, we only had 1 person attend. So that was somewhat disappointing, but the applicant did also reach out to the HOA. We did not receive any letters of opposition or letters of support for this request. And in terms of some of the most recent updates, just wanted to make sure a couple items were clear on that commercial piece. The applicant is proposing to make sure that it is in line with the current regulations in the PD zoning, that on that commercial piece, they have to have a commercial institutional component to it. So they can have that sit-down restaurant if that is what they are moving forward with, but they also have to have a commercial office and institutional piece of that development to meet the 3 minimum requirements for planned developments. So there are quite a few standards that staff is recommending. After looking at all of the standards in the rezoning standards, we are recommending approval because it does align with the comprehensive plan, the goals, and the designation. There are similar developments that are adjacent to this development. There is multifamily already in existence in the plan development. Just to kind of, I won't go through every single one of them, but there are a couple of items that I think are really important. We wanted to make sure that along with the residential component that the applicant is asking for, that the general public get a commercial component. So we are recommending that the applicant, in particular, that there is a mix of uses. So the applicant will have to limit the development, so they have to construct at least 6,000 square feet of that commercial piece before they can move forward with completing all phases of the development. Initially, in the application packet provided, we had 150. The applicant asked for at least 50%, so that brought that total up to 184 residential units. Staff has absolutely no issue with that. We also updated the language under standards for non-residential mixed use under number 2 to make sure that that language was just consistent across the way. And a couple of items that we are recommending that be strictly prohibited. One of those items is drug rehab facilities, halfway house, residential mental facilities, transitional housing facilities, gas stations, drive-through restaurants, automotive repair, home and garden equipment and repair maintenance, pawn shops, motor vehicle sales, and any industrial use, along with overnight commercial vehicle parking. We're also recommending that just the nature of development as it gets along, if it's approved, we want to make sure that what is presented to you is also presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission to make sure that the different standards and elements that are listed in here, we have quite a few conditions, are what the general public sees when it's actually constructed. And the applicant is here. Are there any questions for staff? I know that there was a lot of information included in there, available to answer any of those questions.
Just so I stay within protocol, Ms. Cross, should I go ahead and have the public hearing first, and then this case, and then I guess when I ask the people that's in favor, clearly the developer will be.
However you typically do it, if you want to
Yeah.
do a motion now to open the public hearing.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna do, yeah. Members of council, can I entertain a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved. Second.
Motion is made and properly second.
Who made the motion?
I heard somebody made the motion. Somebody.
Yes, I made the motion.
Okay. Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, I will bring the people that want to speak in support of this item. Please, if you want to come up.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Avery and members of the council. My name is Jessica Hill. My business address is 600 Peachtree Road. And I'm here representing Portman Holdings, who is the applicant. They have this property under contract. It's actually 2 pieces of property. Ms. Brookins did an excellent job of presenting this application to you. I do believe I have a presentation, if that can be queued up. And I won't take too much time because she's given you the majority of the facts about this case. Some things to note: it's been vacant since it was annexed into the city of Fairburn. So since 1998, this particular piece of property has been vacant, and it has been zoned as it is today, PD with a commercial sub-area. The proposal would still include commercial use along the frontage, very similar to what you see up and down Highway 74 in this location. But it will have commercial, or will have residential at the rear as you transition into the single family. Immediately across the street is the Oslo and the Dillon developments, which were recently approved and recently constructed. This is not dissimilar to those. You can see on the screen here is some imagery of the common green area. This is located behind the 2 commercial buildings. Again, there's 2 proposed 6,000 square foot commercial buildings with a common area green behind it. That area is intended to be publicly accessible. What you're seeing in the picture, over to the right, is a fire feature, a fire pit of some sort. And then, let's see, this is the site area. You can see it. I'm happy to go back to that. And let's get a little bit in here. This is a close-up of the commercial area. Again, Highway 74 on the right. The two buildings that are in red are each 6,000 square feet. Commercial buildings intended to be two restaurants. As Ms. Brookins noted, we have to have an additional use. You have to have a third use, so there will be some small component that will be an office or institutional use in there. But the idea is to have two sit-down restaurants that will be well-used, and actually will use the green as well. What you're seeing in the green oval is the green. You're seeing flanking on either side of the green are two pavilions, and then publicly accessible parking around it. To the left of that, you see in pink, which is the clubhouse for the residential buildings and the pool. And then there are 9 separate residential buildings that range, most of them are 4 stories. But there's one building that is immediately adjacent to the single family that is limited to 3 stories. And that's reflected in the site plan that's included in the conditions. Here are the elevations. These are included in the staff report and the staff conditions. This shows the 4-story product. Again, another view. I think you've seen this before, another view of the fire pit from a different direction. And then again, this view here as well. We are amenable to all of the staff's recommendations and conditions. We really appreciate all the help that we have been given in trying to craft these. And we ask that you support the application as well. Thank you.
Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak in support of this item? Seeing none, is there anyone here that wishes to speak in opposition of this item? Yes, sir, come on up.
You know, guys, it's coming really rapid fire. If you go down Rivertown Road and right there at Ono Road and Rivertown, the big chunk of land that's been leveled for development. West Fayetteville Road, if you go out, there's some type of big development coming over there. You know, if you just look around, and I understand that we're trying to accommodate the middle, so it's just hard for me to believe that people who are public employees, in other words, firemen, policemen, school teachers, make the kind of money to have a $400,000, $500,000 mortgage. But just looking around, you know, if you just travel around, it's coming rapid fire, and I believe, I'm only speaking for myself, I can't speak for my neighbors. Everybody's complaining about we need to be an oasis in the desert of development. Enough is enough. If you want to help someone that truly needs it, regionally, go to Tennessee and North Carolina and South Carolina and our neighbors in Georgia. Move these folks, and I know they have good intentions. I know it's their occupation, it's their job. They have nice computer-generated pictures and diagrams and intent. However, you're going to choke out the live, thrive, play that we have. We got a paradise here. And I think that we need to keep it, and we need to put a stop on all this, a moratorium. And that's who I'm voting for. I'm voting for the next mayor and the next city council that's going to say, we're putting a moratorium on development because we got a paradise as it is. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else here that wishes to speak in opposition? Come on up, ma'am.
Again, I want to say thank you for the opportunity to share thoughts. The development looks really, really nice and could obviously provide some nice outdoor space that we don't currently have. But at the cost of what to the citizens who are already here? And this is why I keep emphasizing with the end in mind. Think about the citizens of the city and the community that are here. That corridor in 74, which is about to get a new Chick-fil-A, is already packed with traffic. Our infrastructure is not good. We have utility problems, we have water, sewer issues. There are many, many things that this city could focus on. There are several things that we could do besides having fall festivals and Third Friday celebrations with taxpayer dollars. We could enhance what we currently have. Let's try to think about how might we ask the question, how might we are the citizens. We are the taxpayers. Our families are here every day. We're mowing the lawn. We're killing the bugs, taking care of whatever is necessary in our communities. Think about how might we, with the citizens that are here, no offense to the developer and their plan, I respect that the property has been that way since 1998, but what else could we do than throw up 4-level apartment complexes when we have plenty here? What is our occupancy rate currently in Fairburn? At the cost of what to bring in a new development? At the cost of what to the community with traffic and stress to our infrastructure? Let's think about how might we.
Come on up, ma'am.
Hello.
This is my first time doing this. And again, no disrespect.
Can you announce your name?
Oh, sorry, Bindika Huff. No disrespect to the developer. It looks like a beautiful community, and it is lovely, and I like to see growth and development. But one of the reasons I moved to Fairburn was it still had a small town feel. That's what I love. That's what I fell in love with this area for. I said, this is where I want to be. It's the last little haven that's close enough to work, but it's far enough from the city and the bustle. And I see my community changing. I know I came here initially to speak on item 5, but in relation to what she's saying, how much is enough? I think we have a real gem here in Fairburn. I think we could really develop what we have here. As we put up these developments, houses, the average working American does not make this kind of money. To make that kind of money, you have to commute to Atlanta, or you're coming from out of state. And I think you're missing an opportunity for the people that live here locally, for the people that want that kind of small town feel, and who appreciate the gem that it is. I don't want to move further out and commute further to work. I think that this is a real privilege that we have here, and we need to invest in this community. As was mentioned, there are other areas that can use this development. I think we need to work a lot. My problem as far as infrastructure, again, I appreciate all the things that this community has done, but things like the Third Friday, every time that goes on, my power goes out. And I don't know if it's an electrical problem, I don't know, but that is something that does need to be addressed locally. So I just really hope that they consider that, we need to invest in our community. I appreciate that we're big enough, but we're small enough as well.
Thank you so much. That's the final comment. And so in this case, can I entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So move. Second.
Motion is made and probably seconded by Mr. Heath. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. Members of council, you have before you a request for rezoning for the Meadow Glen Village rezoning. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Discussion.
Uh,
Second to
Okay.
discuss.
Discussion, okay, this item is brought to the floor. So in this case, and it's, go ahead, Mr. Jones.
Yes, Ms. Brookings.
Yes.
My first question has to do with the change in the zoning request from, could we put that slide back up, please? The issue of retail to commercial, I think that's the difference.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
What are the factors that have driven that request to move from retail to commercial?
One of the challenges with the planned development is that you have to have 3 uses. So the applicant had to update both the application to make sure that those 3 uses are incorporated as a part of the development. If you're speaking of commercial versus the mixed-use development, one of the challenges that I think any developer probably had when looking at this is, I think over the years, there's probably been quite a few developers that have been interested in having some sort of large commercial piece, and it was just never presented to staff, and I haven't seen any documents that show where a commercial developer was able to move forward on that proposal. One of my primary concerns with it is the existing ordinance that's in place now that does not have any conditions related to elevations and would allow a larger commercial piece, which in my professional opinion would be more harmful than what is being proposed.
So how do we define, specifically for this project, how do we define commercial? Is that a, what's a commercial?
So
An office building, is that classified as commercial?
So the way the 1998 ordinance was drafted, commercial is very open-ended. So commercial could include a gas station with a convenience store. It could include a big box commercial development. So it is very open-ended and does not have any conditions tied to it outside of saying you can't have, it just says you can't have a gas station, but you can have a gas station with a convenience store and any other commercial development.
Do we have anything that could help us narrow what commercial might be? Specifically, given the specific property that's being addressed, what wouldn't work there, or what would conflict with the overlay definition that we have for it? Yes, given the ordinance as it is written, it allows a gas station with a convenience store, but how close is that to the next gas station with a convenience store? And is that the most appropriate use for that particular property? So my question to you is, do we have anything, or how can we put some guardrails or criteria around what would be allowable and acceptable given what's already there, given the plans that we have put in place as to what we want that particular corridor to look like, and what it should include. So I just need to know what's available to us to help us guide more structurally what can go there.
With the existing ordinance that is in place, even with the changes to the highway overlay district, which has allowed us to see some of the brick buildings and some of the commercial development, none of the language in the Highway 74 overlay district is applicable to this development. The only thing that is applicable is that 1998 ordinance that does not have any conditions.
Well, you answered my question, disappointing answer, but you answered it. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Smallwood, then Mr. Whitmore.
All right, my question is, with the zoning now, as it stands now, does it allow for all of those homes?
No,
Okay.
no. The zoning now only allows for a commercial development with no condition. It does not allow for multifamily development.
Okay.
So that's the request then? That's the request?
The request is for commercial developments as mixed use, so 12,000 square feet of commercial institutional office and 364 units. But the proposed ordinance that has been drafted and presented to you would prohibit things like gas station, automotive uses, any heavy commercial industrial uses. When I reviewed the 1998 original ordinance, I could not understand why they would have such an open-ended language in there, especially considering that you have an established residential community. Even with the multifamily development, you typically don't see single-family and industrial abutting each other, and you typically, now, you have a lot more prohibited uses because you want to make sure that future development isn't impacted and that the sort of natural flow of development with residential, commercial can work together. In this case, with the existing ordinance, it does not.
You finish?
Yeah, I do have a follow-up question, but I think.
I want, well, actually, I was going to, Mr. Whitmore next, and then I was going to come to Mr. Heath. Then I was going to ask Ms. Hudson if she has a statement. Go ahead, Mr. Whitmore.
Thank you, Mayor. I already heard you about the 1998, what's in the ordinance for 1998. And that was back even when Meadow Glen was built, thereabouts. So therefore, there was no forward thought process based on what you're reading to limit certain things.
My professional opinion, yes, that's a correct assessment.
Okay. So now I would like to dive deeper into the explanation about future land use map and the comp plan. All right? So we have a 30-year comp plan, right? And we review it and update it every 5 years.
Yes, sir.
All right. And when the review process is moving forward, looking at that 5-year span, what we're doing is looking to make sure that we have done, we have completed, or we have introduced and used what we were looking for when that plan was put in place. Is that correct? So then after that 5-year period, when we're doing the renewal, we're making sure that we're also looking forward, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, looking at the constitutional rights, would you explain the constitutional rights for me, please?
I will defer to legal about constitutional rights. She has a law degree.
Context are you asking that question?
Based on future land use maps and the comp plan, we're sitting up here and we heard what the developer was proposing, and we also listened to our citizens as well, okay? Because they have some thoughts and input. So I just wanted to hear from a legal perspective that where do we stand right now based on the current ordinances that we have in place?
And not the 1998 ordinance, because remember, that's what's applicable. That's what's on the books now.
1998.
Yes.
So what we did was we put some conditions in this particular, or staff, put some conditions in this particular applicant's presentation because we know that this is outdated, 1998. And what we're trying to do is make sure we do what's in the best interest of the city of Fairburn to get the things that our citizens have been asking for. I've been on for 8 years, going on 9 years, and I'm hearing restaurants, I'm hearing more growth, I'm hearing no new taxes. These are the things that I'm hearing on a daily basis. But I also understand the constitutional right aspect as well. And I just wanted to have you articulate that based on what's being presented here this evening.
So just to go back a little bit to Councilmember Porter-Jones's question, one of the guardrails that the city can use in these types of instances is those conditions of zoning. The PD zoning district is unique because it is specific to a development plan. This zoning district does not have setback requirements, minimum development standards, minimum setback requirements that other zoning districts have on the books. The development plan for PD is specific to the proposed development. So those conditions of zoning, which as we all know, every time we hear PD and we're looking at either Meadow Glen or any other master plan development that was approved a long time ago, if those conditions of zoning were not in place, we all know what we could potentially deal with. Here in this specific instance, we're dealing with a condition of zoning that was put in place for commercial that allowed for convenience stores with gasoline sales. So because this is coming back before you, this allows staff to review this whole development plan and put new conditions of zoning on this particular commercial piece that has prohibited uses that include gasoline sales. The constitutional piece, so that's the guardrail, those conditions of zoning. The constitutional piece goes to, and I'm going to keep this broad in case there's anything that happens after this. So I don't want to get too specific, but in general, developers, property owners have the constitutional right to develop their properties. They have the right as zoned, as long as they are in compliance with the city's codes and ordinances. They have the right to develop their property as they see fit, as long as it meets staff's requirements. Otherwise, you're looking at a potential taking claim, because you're saying, yes, you may have this property, but we're not going to allow you to use it in the way that you see fit because of whatever reason. So that's the balance that you have to keep in mind, and this is what I talk about with you all the time in relation to your legislative discretion to make these types of decisions, while balancing the property owner's right to use their property as they see fit, as long as it's in compliance with the city's codes and ordinances.
Yeah, thank you. Staff, does the city of Fairburn own this property that we're talking about?
I'm sorry?
City of Fairburn, do we own this property that
No,
is
no,
before
sir.
us now? Okay, so what you have done for us, what you have done for the city, what you have done for our citizens is you craft something that would be more palatable versus what could have happened based on this 1998
Correct.
Ordinance.
ordinance that we have on file, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Heath, and then Ms. Hudson, is Ms. Hudson, can she hear me? Okay, I don't know if she's still on. Go ahead, I'll go to her after.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, what happened? I'm coming to you after Mr. Heath. Go ahead, sir.
My question deals with the theory, basically, that I've heard for the last 15 and a half years that I've been on the council. We want nice sit-down restaurants in Fairburn, and this gives us an opportunity, from my understanding, to get two, not one, but two. Are you at liberty to say what the name of these restaurants would be?
At this time, I don't believe that the developer has that information, but they can speak for themselves.
But like I say, we've got a lot of fast food places, and some of those has dining areas, but since the COVID stuff, most of them, most people don't go in and sit inside to eat. But a nice sit-down place is, you either now have to go to Fayetteville or either to Noonan or College Park or, somewhere other than in the city of Fairburn. Now, we do have one restaurant that's a nice sit-down, but I'll just be honest with you, their service has gotten really slow. It's like 40-something minutes to sit there after you order your meal and get it. So I'm not going to call their name, but at any rate, but the thing of it is that I've talked with people throughout my career being on the council, and everybody has said, we want sit-down restaurants. Well, this is an opportunity for that. But in the past, we couldn't get those nice sit-down restaurants because we didn't have rooftop counts. Now we're getting the rooftop counts from the apartments and everything in the area. And I can understand traffic on 74, but the DOT is supposed to start pretty soon, and I don't know exactly when now, but they're going to make a half cloverleaf there on 74 and I-85, which should help with the traffic considerably. But like I say, it's just a situation that here we are We have the opportunity, so do we want to take advantage of it or not? Thank you. That's all I got.
Ms. Hudson, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. When you talk about multifamily housing, are we talking about apartments?
Yes.
Okay. And we don't know how many apartments, correct?
No, ma'am, they're proposing 364 units.
Wow, that's a lot. What I want to say is this. This is a huge development. It is an opportunity to get some of the things that the citizens have been asking for. However, I'm going to go back to the fact that our infrastructure is weak. You have over 300 units that you want to build, and we still have water and electric issues. So as I've been asking throughout the year, with the types of development was coming in, this development going through, how will this improve our infrastructure? What will the development be offering for water, sewer, infrastructure? Because that's a big issue. The other thing is to our citizens. I heard that there were several meetings that were had and no one came to those meetings. That's important. When we make a decision about development, we're making decisions based off of what's on the record. And you all know that I have raised concerns about the antiquated policies that are in place that we are making decisions on. We are up under the 5-year comp plan review. So my question will be is, have the residents in attendance reviewed or completed the survey that is online? Also, to planning and zoning, what is expected, if anybody knows, what will change in the 5-year review that will impact this development, maybe in a positive way, or if there is some things that we need to reconsider before it goes in the wrong way. Finally, I do support the questions that my colleagues have raised, all three that have spoken so far about it. I have mixed feelings about the development, but according to the legal aspect, citizens, this is what we're working with. When I hear that the developer came to have a meeting and no citizens showed up until the public hearing here at council, that concerns me. I'm glad that you are here, but we have to be more proactive than reactive, because we have a legal obligation to vote and to respond in a manner that does not cause liability against the city. And I'll rest there.
Thank you. Ms. Davis, and then I'll come back to Mr. Smallwood. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. It's almost as if we're in a catch-22 here. There's a lot of things my colleagues have said that I totally agree with. In reference to, I talked with Ms. Brookins this morning. I was actually going around looking at these different developments. When I got my packet in reference to Meadow Glen, I literally asked Ms. Brookins, was there any pushback in reference to this development and she had said no. When I got the packet and I looked at a well put together packet actually from the developer. There's the concept plan, the site plan, there's the traffic study, there's a list of 2 opportunities that they listed to speak with the residents within 1,000 feet radius of this development. One meeting, one person showed up. The second meeting, one of the developers with the properties over on the other side of 74 showed up just to see what was going on. So the catch-22 that I see here is that we're saying as citizens, and listen, my heart goes out to our citizens. We're citizens of this city as well. And we are here for your voice and to look at things in a deeper manner than you will have the ability to look at. but it is a community engagement part of this in reference to the comp plan and in reference to the future use land map. And if we don't get participations from the citizens and we have opportunities to have developments, and then when we have to make a decision, then this place is full. Outside of that, maybe 2 or 3 people may show up to council meeting. You know, it's not that we're ignoring you, we are here for you. And we want to do the right thing. But it's a collective part of this. I know once before we had a rezoning and I asked a number of people that showed up to participate in the comp plan. The room was full. 2 people stood up. Then we are hearing your wants. You want the fine restaurant. You want a grocery store like a Publix. You want the small town feel. I get that, and I appreciate that. I like that too. But you can't have all of these things without having some of the inconveniences. I mean, I'm just shooting to you straight. I hear you. I understand you. I feel for you. I live here too. You know, I want the grocery stores outside of the ones we do have. But they count rooftops. They look at salaries. Our hands are tied. I want this, but I don't want that. What you don't want is going to impact what you want. I'm just being real. And we're in a quandary here because we care about what you want. And we care about the things that you say. When you come up here and talk, our hearts are with you. Our eyes are on you. We hear you. But our hands are tied because we're not the ones that do the comp plan, the future land use map. It's an engagement with the city. We want to hear you all. We have surveys, you know. So that's the way I'm looking at this. I just had to speak my heart because that's the only way I know how to speak. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And my comments, and I'll come back to you in a second, Mr. Smallwood. You had a question, right?
Well, no.
No, go-
Well, yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
I
Go
will
ahead. I'll
speak.
go to you. Did you have follow-up?
This is just comment I hear, and I've heard what everyone has said, but I made the comment, and this is just more so a comment for staff. I made the comment at the last development because it seems like we're constantly in this situation that we look at these projects in isolation, whereas we have like 3 or 4 different projects happening just on 74 alone. So I haven't seen a study yet, and this is not on the developer, but every study says it's not going to impact traffic. I drive it every day, all right? Every day. Everybody's speaking their heart, but we are going to build ourselves under the ground. Under the ground. I've heard rooftops for 6 years. We've put in about 3 apartments on that 74, and nothing has come. No restaurants have come. And then when they do come, they're gonna be so packed that people ain't even gonna be able to be in there. So I'm speaking my heart because 2 hours just to navigate from the south side to my home the other day, and I was already past the other part of town. This is just on the south side. Then you go to your neighboring cities because we're not in isolation just with Fairburn alone. You got Union City, South Fulton, everybody's building. I was on Stonewall Tail the other day, and I looked over, and it looked like something from, and this is not against my neighbors, but we are all in this community together. So back to what Ms. Hudson always says, you can't sneeze and your water don't go out, or your lights don't go out. So I am thoroughly against the portion of this that has the 300-something new apartments on it. And it seems like the ordinance is there now to where it's zoned where that part isn't included. So I'm just speaking my heart. I just wanted to make a comment because our hands are not tied. They're not. We got sight, but we also have to have vision for down the road. And this is not against anybody, but like I say, I drive these roads every day. And at what cost development for quality of life? That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I'll come back to Ms. Hudson. Let me just say this much, ladies and gentlemen, and again, it's actually all the perspectives that I was going to cover. It's actually already been spoken. Mr. Whitmore brought up the constitutionality part of it, which was an issue, which was a concern for me because, again, landowners have rights, whether we like that or not. They do, and it's real clear. We've actually been sued a couple of years ago because of that, and so again, we as a result of a lot of that was actually geared. I want to thank our planning and zoning director. A lot of the boundaries, the guardrails that was used earlier, that was actually put in place to address what the ordinance doesn't say, was basically a combination of trying to actually give, basically in this case, give honor to the landowners while addressing the needs and concerns that a lot of our residents and a lot of council members here would have actually mentioned. And so one of the things too, again, you heard me mention earlier this year that housing is still an issue in our country, and it's an issue in the metro Atlanta. Let me just be real clear. And so a lot of the mayors have meetings, and the U.S. Conference of Mayors had a big conversation about that very thing, that the housing in this case. In my last administration, we actually lost, and the name of the organization escapes me right now, were 4 restaurants that we were pursuing. And you heard it mentioned by someone already because of the rooftops. And they told us that we can't come to Fairburn right now because of the rooftops. We were, at that time, I was in negotiation at that time with IHOP at that time, trying to get them to come. And they said, well, I already know from my research that you're having a problem with some of the other restaurants because of rooftops. So we had some very household name restaurants that we were looking at that time. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a demand, and I'm gonna just say this much, there was a demand, and I'm not gonna say was, it is, there's still a demand for restaurants in our city right now, in this case in the Highway 74 corridor. What's gonna happen, whether we actually take advantage of it right now or not, what's gonna happen, what's coming down the street, right at the intersection, you see all the development in Peachtree City and Fayette County right now, the Olympics, and the Olympic thing that's coming in a couple of years, am I saying it right? Soccer, excuse me, that's coming in a couple of years. Ladies and gentlemen, the business is coming. The question is, will we take advantage of it? The city of Fairburn lost out years ago, the Publix, and I'm just going to say which location. There was a Publix that wanted to come here that went elsewhere because the city of Fairburn wouldn't have a conversation with them. I know that personally, and so now what we're doing, we're having to look at the demands, in this case, of both the good, the bad, and the ugly as it relates to what residents want. We have to balance it all, but we still have to, at the same time, the landowners have rights. We have to make sure we don't lose sight of the rights of both the residents as well as the landowners. So I'm not going to labor the point there, but pretty much my point has been made by pretty much all the city council, majority of them. Ms. Hudson, you had a follow-up. Go ahead.
Yeah, a follow-up. I don't know if I heard anybody mention about a feasibility study when Councilman Smallwood was speaking. We have work to do. I don't like to say that our hands are tied. We have now a need in our city to catch up with the business. Mayor, you are right. Not only do we have a soccer coming, we have the World Cup that's coming to Atlanta, and it's going to spill over into Fairburn. So my question to staff and to us as a council, having a renewed and antiquated ordinances is kind of like an oxymoron. We can't have a concurrent a plan that's going to move us forward developmental wise, and our ordinances are outdated. So to staff, you have an open door opportunity to get to review and write these ordinances. It has to change. I want to make it abundantly clear that I understand where we are in terms of this development, but I do not support constantly building on a weak infrastructure. We want to prioritize business. We have to prioritize lives. We have to prioritize water, sewer, electricity. And just recently at my home, we were with power and water. The board water orders, I know, are not all our fault, but what we have to do in Fairburn, it's a responsibility of this council to make sure that these ordinances are up to par, to make sure that we are making the investment in our infrastructure, as well as working with developers who want to develop in Fairburn to get a buy-in to support infrastructure building. You want to build over 300 apartments in Fairburn. We don't want to tell you how to build, but what we want to tell you is think about the quality of our life while you're building. And let's come to a medium that we can have, both sides can have what it is that they want. In reference to being sued about land rights, there's some litigation that Fairburn could have avoided, but we did not avoid that. So we have to get away ourselves at times, look at what's in black and white, and let's work through the challenges that we are having so that our residents will have what it is that they want, and that this council is in the legal part of it, that we're on the legislative part of this. So we have a legislative duty. That is our first duty, to write legislation that is going to ensure that the quality of life here in our city is open for all of us. And I asked a question to Lisa about the comp plan. Do we have any idea if the renew or the review of the comp plan will change or alter in a way that will enhance this development, or it may circumvent this development? That's what I need an answer to.
Did you understand the question?
Yes, I believe I did. I'm sure she will tell me if okay. So the comprehensive plan, there is an update that has to be completed by end of next year. The city of Fairburn has completed a housing market study. We've also done a parks master plan and quite a few other items that will all be a part of the update to the comprehensive plan. But the existing comprehensive plan that we have today does complement this proposed development. We have asked, when we were looking at the housing market study, because one of the things that have come up as of recently for a number of reasons, number 74 here, what all the residents are saying with the increased interest. And so we did have a housing market study completed that will be presented at the next council meeting. And all of the proposed developments that have been staff's been working with the developer to look at it and that potential impact. There isn't any concern as it relates to the number of units, but the question of infrastructure, I think, is a valid one. This developer and any developer who's coming to the city would be required to do the necessary upgrades at their expense to all of our infrastructure to make sure that it meets both our fire, building, and utility standards. As it relates to the comprehensive plan, though, we will be doing an update, and that will be completed next year. And I believe that all of our future land use designation needs to be reevaluated in light of the increased development on 74, in light of some of the changing demographics, and from everything we've learned from the Parks Master Plan and a lot of the community meetings, there is a lot of needs and amenities that aren't even mentioned in our existing comp plan. So.
Follow up, Mayor.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Whitmore, and then
No, mine, well, okay.
go ahead, Ms. Jones.
Yes, so another plan that we are also working on is our economic development plan, to talk about the various businesses and the types of businesses that might be the best fit for the city of Fairburn. What I want to say, though, is that we had the same discussion when the Oslo project and some of the other ones on 74 came before us. They were the exact same issues. What we articulated at the time, and what I want to reiterate now, is that we have to walk and chew gum at the same time. That we have to multitask, we have to bring in new development, we've got to figure out where we can get the water and make sure that it flows, we've got to pave the streets, we've got to do all of this at the same time. The one thing we cannot afford to be is singular focus, because that's what has happened to us in the past. That's why a lot of the opportunities passed us by, because we needed A to be done before B could be done. And I think we've learned that we now need to do all these things simultaneously. And what I'd also like to say is that residents of Fairburn, me included, we are only one unit of government that affects you. You're also affected by the county government, you're affected by the state government, you're affected by the regional commissions, MARTA. We have been trying to get public transportation in this area because of the traffic problems. And the traffic, they're not Fairburnites. The traffic are people who are going to Fayette County, who is bustling. But the only way they can get there is through Fairburn. So that's our transportation problem. It's not us. But we can't control that, right? So we're either gonna step in and figure out how to make it work for us, or we will be the victim of it. So we have to decide what we want to be, because certain things are going to happen to us regardless. So it is our responsibility to try and be smart about it. And then the last thing I want to say is that all of this is about our property tax base. It is about spreading the burden. Yes, we all live here. Yes, we like it just the way it is, but the cost of doing business is escalating. And the burden on us that are here now is also escalating. So we complain about the high property taxes, but we don't want to do what is necessary to spread the burden. So that's our reality check, and that we've got to, let's just be smart about what's happening to us. Let's be smart about those things that are not in our control. The traffic is not us. The traffic is our neighbor to the east and to the north. So it's on us. I'm done, Mayor. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add to this conversation. This government has done a good job in relationships, and the relationship that I'm speaking of right now is GDOT. Right now on 74, when we do the exchange on 85 and 74, going south, those lanes are going to turn into 4 lanes. All right, and this is stuff that we know about, that maybe you don't know about, but just to give you some ideas. And as it goes further south, it's going to drop into 3 lanes, then into 2 lanes. All right, that's going to be a little bit of relief for us. All right, so now when we talk in staff, I got a question for staff. And when you're talking about infrastructure, I know that our utilities department, whenever a new development is proposed, they also take a look at what's coming, so we can talk about whether or not we can absorb or cannot absorb more of, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
And then also, you know, when you look at, and I did mention taxes, all right? But if you look at the budget that was proposed, and we were looking at a 1.5 mil rate increase, well, that's not happening, because we have reduced our reserve. So that $2 million is just saved by us just by us reducing the reserve, all right? So we all, when we sit up here, we're looking at everything because we hear it. I know I hear it. I'm sure my colleagues hear it as well. So there's a lot of things that go into the equation of things that we're looking at, discussing, and again, understanding the legal dynamics is paramount, along with the respect of those that own land that the city does not own. So there's a lot that goes into it, and I just wanted to add those comments to the conversation, Mayor.
Members of council, what's going to happen? I'll make these last comments and then I'll take it to a vote. In this case, ladies and gentlemen, for a lot of us that may not know, the city's budget in this case, you know, as Mr. Whitmore very politely stated, commercial property, commercial businesses keep us afloat. I mean, the amount of money that we acquire from commercial businesses makes a difference day and night. Trust me when I tell you this. Again, it's not that we're coming in here trying to just swell and drop businesses left and right. The part of the futuristic perspective that every member of this council has to take into account is what is the impact. In this case, the impact as the cost of living just continuously escalate, not just in the city of Fairburn, it's nationwide, but in particular the metro area, some of the other areas, and let me just say this candidly, I won't give a name, but there are several businesses that have come to the city of Fairburn recently, and they made it clear because it was so difficult to deal with some of the other neighboring governments, just to get, literally just to have a conversation. One of the things that was I'm very proud of right now, they talked about a lot of the legislative conflict in this case in some of the neighboring governments that stop businesses from actually wanting to come and talk with the government. So when it's all said and done, ladies and gentlemen, again, as several members have talked about it, we have to take up the holistic perspective. And one of the things that one also mentioned too, Mr. Whitmore, I think made a great point that we take for granted. Ladies and gentlemen, and I say this with pride, as I'm trying to be as humble about this as I can. Ladies and gentlemen, you know how many cities are begging for the governor to dump $120+ million in a project that's in their city? Trust me when I tell you, there's mayors everywhere. I know because I was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors with numerous governors from Georgia. It was trying to help us understand how in the world did y'all get the state of Georgia through the president's infrastructure bill to agree to dump X millions of dollars in the city of Fairburn when I got neighboring cities that so-called got better relationships than I do. I don't know the way to put it. And so, okay, and so I'm gonna start right there. I think I've said already enough about it. But with that being said, members of council, you have before you, in this case, the item is, here, one second, I got completely lost. Item number 2 in this case, in Meadowgan Village. The motion has been made to bring it to the floor, and then a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Opposed? Nay.
Okay, that motion. Ms. Hudson, I couldn't hear you vote. For the record, I couldn't hear you vote.
Opposed.
Okay. Opposed, that motion carries 4-2. Okay, next item.
The next item is number 3, text amendment for non-conforming signs. This is a recommendation for mayor and council to approve the ordinance to amend the regulations in Chapter 8, zoning, Article 7, sign regulations, Section 435, grandfathered and non-conforming signs, planning and zoning.
Good evening, everyone, and happy Indigenous Peoples Day. I want to acknowledge that as we stand here this evening, we are in historic Muskogee, also known as Creek People Land. I would like to acknowledge the Cherokee people, as their historic lands are only a 30-minute car ride away to the north. I thank the Native American community and their contributions to the nation that trickle down to the local jurisdictions such as Fairburn today. I bring to the Honorable Mayor and City Council members tonight a text amendment to Chapter 80, zoning, Article 12, sign regulations, Section 435, grandfather and non-conforming signs. A little bit of background. So, The Georgia Department of Transportation, also known as GDOT, will be widening the right-of-way of Sonoya Road, also known as Highway 74. Construction is slated to start in the next year. GDOT has condemned and acquired the land to do such. Several businesses and their signage has been affected by this legal taking. The signage of the affected businesses has to be relocated. However, due to our current regulations, legally non-conforming signs cannot be relocated or changed for any reason besides to come into compliance with the current regulations. I believe that it is our duty as staff to mitigate any unnecessary hardships that property owners and our applicants may have due to circumstances that are out of their control. Therefore, it is staff's recommendation to allow for the relocation of legally non-conforming signs affected by condemnations or acquisitions by lawful authorities with specific conditions for doing so. Therefore, staff recommends approval for amendments to Chapter 80, Zoning, Article 12, Sign Regulations, Section 435, Grandfather and Non-Conforming Signs. The proposed new regulations read as follows. If the city or any other lawfully constituted state or federal governmental authority, agency, or body or utility having authority of eminent domain condemns or acquires property in the city, and as the sole result of such condemnation or acquisition, an existing nonconforming sign that was legally erected must be removed. The existing nonconforming sign that was legally erected may be relocated on the same lot on which the original nonconforming sign that was legally erected was located. In the relocation of a legally erected nonconforming sign as a result of an act of eminent domain, any nonconformities with respect to height, shape, or signage area may not be increased or changed beyond those that exist as of the date of taking, unless the changes will bring the sign into compliance. However, the relocated sign may be relocated closer to the right-of-way than otherwise allowed by current setback requirements, provided it will not impact the line of sight or otherwise constitute a safety concern. Thank you.
Members of council, yeah.
If I could just
Yes,
add
sir.
one.
Yes, sir, go ahead.
Members of council, you heard earlier a representative during public comment from the Wendy's on 74. This was the issue he was speaking to. Their monument sign, because of the project that is coming with GDOT and the expansion of the interchange, had to move because it was in the right-of-way that GDOT is going to be using. This particular proposed new regulation would allow them to relocate it on the same property under the conditions which staff just shared. I just wanted to make mention of that so you could connect those two issues.
Okay. Members of council, you have before you a text amendment for non-conforming signs. Is there a motion?
So
moved.
You gotta open the
Public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize, I didn't see that on it. I apologize.
All of these.
Oh, all of
Got
it.
to open the public hearing.
Okay. Members of council, can I entertain a motion to open the public hearing?
So move.
Is there a
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, is there anyone here that wish to speak in support of this text amendment? Please come forward. Is there anyone here that wish to speak in opposition of the text amendment? Seeing none, can I entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries. That motion carries. And now, members of council, you have now, at this point, we're voting. Members of council, you have before you a text amendment for a non-conforming sign. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
Any comments or questions, council?
Comments?
Go ahead, sir.
Number one, I am aware of the condemnation that GDOT has imposed upon some of the properties within the city. And by the city doing that text amendment change to help those individual businesses, I think is a plus. I think what we're doing is we're looking at what they're going through and still want to make sure that their visibility is there for their patrons that are coming and patronizing them. So I applaud the city for making this move, planning and zoning, and bringing this before this body tonight. Thank you.
Any other members of council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries. one. The next item,
Number 4, the next item is a text amendment for future land use amendment. The recommendation is for mayor and council to approve the proposed ordinance to establish a process and review standards for future land use map updates, planning and zoning.
Hello again.
Move.
good evening.
The item before you is to establish a process so that mayor and council can consider comprehensive plan amendments. As it currently stands, we have a process for rezoning, we have processes for variances and use permit, but not a process if an applicant is requesting to amend the comprehensive plan. We've spoken about that somewhat briefly today. The next comprehensive plan is due to DCA October 25th, and we are heavy into that process in terms of outlining public input, engagement activities, all of that thing, and making sure that we can get a consultant on board. But in the interim, most cities and counties have a process for comprehensive plan amendment. We have drafted based on what we've seen in other communities and what we've heard from the general public and from members of council. The comprehensive plan amendment would require the public notice, meaning the same as rezoning, no less than 15 days, no more than 45 days. Mayor and council, planning and zoning, or a property owner could submit the request in the current draft. There is a requirement to notify surrounding property owners, and also there's a requirement for a neighborhood meeting. The applicant would have to provide a application that discusses things like to what extent there's a change in the economy, land use opportunities, look at things like infrastructure, public health, safety, and welfare. Some of the items that are very similar to a rezoning decision, but the language in the standards for review are a bit more comprehensive and aligned with what you would do when you're looking at a comprehensive plan update. So community design, cultural awareness, economic development, environment, fire, rescue, housing for residential development, land use, how would this potential development be excessive in terms of existing streets, transportation facilities, utilities, public services, schools, or any infrastructure. So we added as many items that are in the existing comprehensive plan, and also a few items that were not necessarily listed, but we've heard from the community, things like parks, open space, police, water, sewer, transportation. The applicant, of course, could submit that request. They would have to do the public notice process, and similar to a rezoning or a use permit, mayor and city council would be the sole body to decide whether or not to approve it. It would go before the Planning and Zoning Commission for a recommendation, but ultimately, mayor and council in the current draft would make the decision on whether or not to approve a comprehensive plan amendment. We've received a number of requests. The item next on the agenda, the applicant asked to have this considered. We did not have that process in place, and we've been working on it for quite a while. We spoke briefly at a work session. We also presented it to the Planning and Zoning Commission for any comments, and then presented it to them formally for approval or denial, and they recommended approval of the proposed text amendment so that we can consider comprehensive plan amendments.
Members of council, can I entertain a motion to open the public hearing?
So move.
Is there a
So
second?
move.
Second.
The motion is made and properly second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, if there's anyone here that wishes to speak in support of the text amendment, please come forward. Seeing none, is there anyone here that wishes to speak in opposition of the text amendment? Seeing none, members of council, can I entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and properly seconded by Mayor Pro Tem. Members of council, you have before you again the text amendment, future land use map and land use amendment, excuse me. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Says second. Any question or comment by council?
Yes, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Ms. Brookins, how do we define a sense of community under the comprehensive plan? Is that identified at all? How do we define it, and how do we implement what that definition of sense of community might be?
Sense of community can relate to a variety of things, like your neighborhood character, your streetscape, your architectural design standards, public spaces where you can interact. All of those things can be a part of the definition of a sense of community. In terms of the comprehensive plan, what we try to do is identify the sort of visual things that we can see to make sure that that vision is then redrafted into ordinances and to goals and to policies, so that whatever your vision is or whatever your sense of community is, that we are encouraging that kind of development. So the comprehensive plan, to a certain extent, does require the sense of community and for the vision of the community to be implemented through goals, policies, and strategies, and ultimately through land use designations.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Phillips, could you talk a little bit about, so established department under government since the beginning of structural government. Parks, but it's not just parks, it's called Parks and Recreation. So could you help define what's recreation and why there's a need for a city to provide recreation to its citizens, i.e. Little League, football, baseball, Third Fridays, Fairburn Fall Festival, recreation. So can you help me with that?
Yes, ma'am. So all of the uses or recreational options that you just cited are a part of that definition, but it is more expansive than that, and it goes beyond those things that may be front of mind for many of our residents when they hear recreation. If you go to Duncan Park this Saturday or last Saturday, you'll see a lot of that going on. But in the Parks Master Plan, which was developed over almost a year and approved by this council, it speaks to other recreational uses. One example would be what we refer to as passive parks. Passive parks don't have athletic fields, don't have all of those active recreations. They're more for enjoying nature. They have walking trails. There's opportunity for people to exercise, to experience nature, to preserve green space within our community. That's also under the umbrella of recreation, right? And so parks have different uses. You have pocket parks, which can be fitted into other areas of the city that may not have expansive areas for larger parks, but can provide amenities like playgrounds, seating areas, outdoor grilling opportunities, things of that nature. And so all of those fall under the broad definition of recreating or recreation. And so ultimately what those things do is add to something that we've heard earlier this evening, which is quality of life. And studies have shown, if you look at the National Recreation and Parks Association website, they do a study every 2 years. Studies have shown that communities that invest in parks and the development of parks see increases in housing values. People want to live near parks or have those types of amenities in their communities. It connects to economic development because of that and has other positive outcomes, not the least of which are health outcomes as well. So there's a broader impact of recreation beyond what may be the immediate things we think of when we hear that term.
And would you say that those add to or help define what we've been hearing about sense of community?
Absolutely. I think parks are one of the things that create that sense of community, be it for active things like youth athletics or senior activities or just simple gathering spaces. I like to go and enjoy nature in the evening. I go and walk. There's a park not too far from where I live that is largely used in the evenings and early in the mornings for people who like to walk and enjoy nature. There's no activities going on. They simply like to be outside. It's a nice green space, and so it absolutely contributes to that as well.
And would you also say that we offer all of these different programmings because of the, and this is not meant to be a loaded word, but the diversity of our interests in the community. Some of us want to be entertained. Some of us want to walk in the park. Some of us want to do both, right? And so I'm having this discussion or asking these questions because we tend to narrowly define, the things that we do as a governmental body or the things that we offer to the community. The best places to live, those who get the awards for best places to live, are those communities that offer all of these varieties. And quite frankly, they are the ones that attract people to want to live here. Because I've heard that over and over again as to why a lot of residents have moved to Fairburn, because of that sense of place, because of the various recreational opportunity, and the sense of community.
Your point is very valid, Councilwoman Portis-Jones, in that most cities are more than one thing. Even if you look at cities along Highway 29 and Roosevelt Highway, and some of our sister cities, you can look at those cities and there are parts of the downtown corridors that run along 29 that very much give us that small town feel that you often hear our residents speak about, and they're highly valued and also have a definitive place in our communities. But some of those same communities also have other areas of the same city that look very different. For obvious reasons, Highway 74 corridor and Highway 29, the character, the field, the types of businesses that you see are distinctly different, and it's common in most cities that you get that type of diversity. There are one areas of the city where you see more commercial development, where you may see more multifamily homes. You have other areas of the city that are more traditional single-family homes. You have other areas of the city that may lend themselves to mixed-use developments. And so all of those things can have a place in the larger scheme of planning and zoning, in the larger scheme of development, of quality of life, so that cities can be more than one thing. And the balance is to maintain all of those things in a way that allows that diversity to thrive, so that folks who want to live in an area that feels like a small town have the option to do that. And folks who need housing options, home ownership is becoming more challenging. And so housing options are always something that cities have to work their way through, and figuring out how those different elements fit into that diversity you speak of is cities typically navigate that.
Okay. So Ms. Brookins, would you agree then that that is the goal or purpose of the comprehensive plan? And if it isn't, please share, let us know what it is.
I think that the goal for a comprehensive plan is all the items that Mr. Phillips spoke of, and so much more. So the goal of the comprehensive plan is to really understand the vision that any citizen, any developer, to understand that vision holistically and to articulate it in a document that then guides future development. So that's why it includes so many different elements like transportation, parks, open space, housing. It discusses infrastructure, transportation. All of those different elements come together in the comprehensive plan to make a statement about the vision for the future and what you want to see happen.
And that comprehensive plan is not a plan that's developed by mayor, council, and staff, but a plan that is developed by the citizens and residents of the city of Fairburn.
Yes.
If they participate.
Yes.
Okay. And so, following or echoing what Councilwoman Hudson stated earlier about participating in these various surveys and programs that we have going on, we have to hear from you. We go through these exercises, the plan gets put in place, and that becomes our guiding document. But if you haven't participated in that and not understanding what those documents are, then that's when we have the conflicts that we're hearing about tonight relative to, well, specifically, that development that's on 74. So I just wanted to lay the foundation for the upcoming comprehensive plan that is due October 25th, 2025, and to say, please participate, give us your ideas, help us to make the plan your plan, not a plan of just the few, which is what has always happened. Thank you, Mayor.
Any other members of council? No. Okay. I was just kind of dittoing on what Ms. Hudson, Ms. Hudson actually originally brought up, as well as Ms., in this case, Porter-Jones. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who've never taken the time to come out to the public meeting, we actually hire consultants that do this for a living. I mean, this is their expertise. And just so you'd understand, too, for those of you that may not know, Mr. Phillips was a former Parks and Recreation Director for Fulton County government, so he has a wide view as it relates to his perspective about parks. But, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not going to hammer it home. We need your input. When you hear us asking you for this land use, all these different land use outreach, we need your input. We need your decision, and here's why. Because the same way we had consultants come in and ask us what type of restaurants you want, what type of housing you want on 29, and so they can only give us back the information they acquired from the residents. And so when you get notices on our website, fairburn.com, please continue just periodically look at our website so that when you hear that we need your input. It means we've done everything in the world trying to figure out how you can do it virtually. I mean, because our goal is we need the information. So just want to hammer home again what both Ms. Hudson and Ms. Porter-Jones mentioned. With that being said, members, go ahead, Ms. Hudson, go ahead.
I just had one quick question for the comp plan that we're doing in terms of making sure that we can amend this plan. Ms. Brookins, can you please clarify if this is something we're enacting to utilize with the comp plan that's in place now, and if this will be our guiding tool for the new comp plan once it's approved by council?
The item before you is a process to establish any amendments to the future land use plan. It would allow mayor and council, the Planning and Zoning Commission, or a property owner to request amendment as it relates to the update. The update will happen as a part of an extensive community engagement process with a consultant. And at the end of that process, we would, again, present that before mayor and council and residents so that we have as much feedback as possible. But the item before you is simply establishing a process in the event that council wants to make any changes to the future land use map or the Planning and Zoning Commission, or if a property owner is requesting to amend that. As it currently stands, we don't have a process in place to even be able to consider a amendment to the future land use map.
I support that. What I want to also clarify is, right, we have large industrialization in Fairburn. Is that already set that we won't probably have industrial property owners coming and saying, relook at our plan, or I don't know. I'm just trying to make sure that we're covering all the bases when we're using this process. That is going to be for all landowners in the city of Fairburn. I do know that we have about over 200 acres that is allocated to industrialization. Do we believe that this process will help us even with that? I think we had something that occurred earlier this year about industrial, a presentation for industrialization, a changing, oh my God, I'm sorry, you guys, I got a little brain freeze there. But I just want to cover the basis of that when we have this process in place, does it give us the wind that we really need for both council and those property owners and our citizens as well? Because what I don't want to see is more industrialization coming into Fairburn that's already here. So help me understand, maybe educate me a little bit more if I'm not on point with that.
The proposed text amendment is not necessarily regarding wins or losses. It's simply establishing the process. So ultimately, mayor and council decide what the future land use map looks like. If a development comes before you and you are fully in support of it, but it does not complement the comprehensive plan, we don't currently have a process that would allow mayor and council to amend that. So this is simply establishing a process, not necessarily a win or loss, but just establishing a process. Because what I did want to happen is, in between now and the comprehensive plan update or in the future, for mayor and council to have a project that you really like and not be able to approve it because there's a conflict with the future land use map and we did not have a process. And you may very well have industrial developers that come before you, like they always do, if there's a piece of property that they have and they want to have a rezoning. This is simply saying, along with that rezoning, you can also consider, you do not have to approve, but you can consider amending the future land use map if that is the will of mayor and council.
Thank you. I do believe that any aspect not having a process could prevent lack of opportunity, which could be a loss or a win. So I understand that it's a process and I support the process. Thank you.
Any other member of council? Go ahead, Ms. Davis.
Yeah, just quickly to clarify this is being brought before us in reference to the Popular Commons, right? Because this is
Well before the Popular Commons development, we were drafting this because we realized that there was a missing piece in our process.
Okay.
And Popular Commons, along with other developers, asked, and we would just simply say, we don't have the process right now. And they kind of just went away. But we do want to make sure that the process is in place, not just for Popular Commons, but for any future developer.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. Okay.
Okay. Seeing no other questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Next item is number 5, Popular Commons Landmark Rezoning. The recommendation is for mayor and council to table this item. The applicant is requesting an amendment to the future land use map, and the review standards and process are presently under consideration. Planning and zoning.
In light of the recent text amendment that was just approved, the applicant is also requesting to have that considered now that we have the standards in place. This applicant, and any applicant, will have to go back before Planning and Zoning Commission. So it'll probably be December because of the advertising requirements before it's before you again. That applicant also has to go back to the community and explain exactly what he's requesting. And then all of that public input will be brought before you when the item is properly advertised. And that applicant also has an opportunity to look at these current standards and explain why the request aligns with that or does not align with that. And we will also provide an analysis.
Members of council, you have before you Popular Commons landmark rezoning. Is there a motion to hold?
So moved.
You're going to open the public hearing?
Okay, hold on for a minute. I'm gonna let the attorney deal with it.
Since you've previously announced that this will be continued to 2
Okay.
weeks, since you've previously announced that you will continue this for 2 weeks, I think you should go ahead and do that. But what Denise just explained to you is that this comp plan process that you all just approved is not going to be before you until December because it's going to have to be legally advertised, it has to go to Planning Commission. So the applicant needs to have these 2 items on the same agenda. It needs to be a rezoning and then the next, or it needs to be a comp plan amendment first and then the rezoning second. So if you approve the comp plan amendment, then you can approve the rezoning. Regardless, it needs to be on the same agenda. So you can continue it to the next regularly scheduled meeting so that those that heard you say that can come back and, say what they need to say. But then after that, you need to table it if you want to be able to consider the applicant's comp plan amendment application, because it needs to be on the same agenda.
Let me just make sure I'm clear. Make sure I'm real clear. I'm gonna entertain a motion to hold for the next regular scheduled meeting.
Yes.
But at the next regular scheduled meeting, I'm gonna have to make a motion to
Table it.
table it so that
It can catch up. This comp plan amendment process can catch up to this rezoning case and be on the same agenda.
Okay, that's everybody. I want to make sure that members of council, we all clear. Ms. Hudson, did you hear it? Were you able to hear that?
Yes.
Okay, yes, ma'am. Okay. So at this point, I'd like to entertain a motion to hold.
Right, to continue.
To
to the
continue,
next
that's
regularly
the
scheduled.
technical term. Can I entertain a motion to continue to the next scheduled meeting?
So move.
Is there a
Second.
motion is made and properly second by Mr. Heath. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? That, I'm sorry, what was her vote? Okay. Ms. Hudson, I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. I need, was that?
Aye.
Okay, aye, yeah, got you, okay.
Oh, we got it.
Got you, 6 of them. I'm sorry, I just couldn't hear you clearly. Okay, we have
The next
item.
The next item is number 6. I'll wait until everyone exits the room.
Everybody's leaving.
Excuse us, we're still in the meeting.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you could depart quietly, I appreciate it. Okay.
Item number 6 is an ordinance to amend occupation taxes and regulatory fees. The recommendation is for mayor and council to approve an ordinance to amend Chapter 14, Business Regulation and Taxation, Article 2, Occupation Taxes of the Code of Ordinances of Fairburn, Georgia, to modify and provide certain exemptions and exemptions to occupation taxes and regulatory fees from the Finance Department.
Good evening, Mayor Avery, council, and community. Bringing the item before you today is the ordinance to amend occupation taxes and regulatory fees. It is to update and modify the city's occupational tax, limiting the total amount of the tax that may be imposed and collected from a business to $50,000. The city current ordinance providing for the imposition, assessment, and collection of occupation tax and regulatory fees and related matters was adopted on December 9, 2013. The mayor and council have determined that it is necessary from time to time to update the city codes in order to align with current conditions, address existing needs, and comport with recent changes to state law. A survey of similar situated local governments in the metropolitan area surrounding the city revealed that the city's absolute dollar amount limitation at $15,000 is significantly low. Our recommendation is we request the mayor and council approve of an ordinance to amend Chapter 14, Business Regulation and Taxation, Article 2, Occupation Taxes of the Code of Ordinance of Fairburn, Georgia, to modify and provide certain exemptions and exceptions to occupation taxes and regulatory fees, to provide for a severability, to repeal conflicting ordinances, to provide an effective date, and for other purposes.
Okay. At this point, I have a public hearing. So, members, can I entertain a motion to open the public hearing?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is made and properly second. Second by Mr. Heath. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, if there's anyone here that wishes to speak in support of this item, please come forward. Yes, sir, come on up.
I'm a small business owner.
Can you pronounce your name, please?
My name's Chris Greer. And my only concern is that the standard of the occupational tax, which I pay every year, would be raised as a small business owner to compensate for the cap that's being put on. So I wish to keep my occupational taxes in the city where I live, but if it's raised and it puts a hindrance on me, finance burden on me, then I'm going to have to move my occupation, license or occupational somewhere else, business license somewhere else. So that's my only concern, is that putting a cap on it, that they don't try to make up the difference by the smaller companies like myself, self-employed people, to make up that difference.
Yes, sir.
That's my main concern here. So.
Totally understand. You want to respond to that?
Occupational tax that we're recommending here only affects about 19 businesses. So it's, the smaller businesses will not be affected by this. It's businesses that are bringing in multi-million dollars within the Fairburn area, that revenue. So your taxes should not be affected. Okay?
Is there anyone else here that wish to speak in support of this item? Okay, is there anyone here that wish to speak in opposition of this item? Yes, sir, come on up.
Help me understand, y'all. I mean, I'm a little slow, but I do understand we kind of put the cart before the horse with action item number 5 on the agenda with the land thing. But with taxation, man, I hate anybody's taxes going up, even big business. You know, I talked about our corporate neighbors, and help me understand that, you know, it was Portman Enterprises that was here last meeting that their proposed 74 apartment complex with, I don't know, hundreds of units, and they were looking for the same tax break that the other builders get on 74. And you know, you brought up that it's us, our tax rate that property owners, you know, and I appreciate the tax break you gave senior citizens. However, help me understand, how is it that builders that come in and want to put apartments in, and you talk about homes, you talk about rooftops, what happened to Judy's Restaurant? You talk about restaurants. What happened? They served a purpose here where it was a meeting place. They served good meals, and the price was right. I don't know what it is, but they've been gone a while. Casablanca, they shut down. We had some sit-down restaurants. But anyway, I'm getting off track. Help me understand about this tax thing where you want to raise anybody's taxes. I mean, help me understand that it's not small business people. It's multi-million-dollar folks. And please, we don't need any more warehouses. But anyway, help me understand that, y'all.
You want to go ahead, sir? Take a stab at that.
So I'll try as best I can to see if I can add a little clarity to that, Mr. Brooks. So the tax breaks you speak of for developers, that's property taxes. So the item that's before us now is for business license. So that's typically based on the revenue generated by that business. So they're kind of two different things. Gotcha. And so this one doesn't connect to property taxes. This one is about the business license that every business in Fairburn, small, medium, and large, has to have a business license. And the fee for that is based on the revenue of that business. That's why this generally would not affect smaller businesses, because their revenues are nowhere near multi-million-dollar corporate entities. And so the cap would typically affect, I think we estimate about 19 businesses, none of which are making less than multiple millions of dollars of revenue each year. Judy's is about to reopen. So just wanted to share that. So Judy's not going away. I don't have a timeline on that, but the sign's already on the building, and they're in there working as we speak. So soon to come on Judy's. And so just wanted to give you that update.
Okay, so what's the cap for a small, say business is really good for a small business person, and then they become a medium business, and then their taxes are going to go up?
It's a proportion. It's based upon your revenue. So the more you make, the more you pay for your business license. And so again, most small businesses weren't hitting the $15,000 cap that was there originally, because we had very few businesses that were hitting that. The only ones hitting the cap were the ones making multiple millions of dollars. When we surveyed cities around us, ours was the lowest of any city around us. And so to diversify the tax base, which come up earlier, from time to time, we have to look at what the market conditions are and make sure we don't fall behind what the market standard is. And so this is an effort to present that. And Mayor, I'll pause there.
Okay. I'm still in the public hearing, right? Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Yes. Okay, so is there anyone else here that's in opposition? Okay. Seeing none, can I entertain a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. At this time, members of council, you have before you ordinance to amend the occupational taxes and regulation fees. Is there a motion?
So move. Second.
Ms. Jones made the motion, second by Mr. Whitmore, Mayor Pro Tem. Any questions or comments by council? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries. Next item.
The next item is on the,
Excuse me, did you hear what how she voted? Did you hear her?
I thought she said aye.
Did she say? Okay.
She said aye. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry.
moving on to our regular agenda items. Number 7 is for Flock Safety Real-Time Crime Center. This is a recommendation for mayor and council to approve the Flock Safety contract for the implementation of a real-time crime center in the amount of $37,378 for fiscal year '25. Police Department.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Come before you tonight, as stated, to seek approval to execute the contract with Flock Safety for a real-time crime center. We first brought this to you during the FY 2025 budgeting process during the hearings as one of the items we would like added to the budget. A real-time crime center is essentially somebody inside the police department whose sole function will be to monitor live camera feeds at key locations around the city. There's also a community aspect to this in that we can partner with local businesses and residents who will voluntarily choose whether or not they would like to be able to share those cameras with the police department. In addition to this contract, it calls for 6 pan, tilt, zoom cameras that are 360-degree capable. So when we put these cameras out, they'll be able to see in 360 degrees and we'll be able to move them around. And finally, it will include a long-range LPR cameras. We already have a network of LPR cameras. That stands for license plate reader. We already have a number of these stationed around the city, which we use for enforcement efforts. And they've been hugely beneficial to our efforts in the police department. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Members of council, before you, a Flock Safety Real-Time Crime Center. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and properly seconded by Ms. Davis. Any questions or comments by council?
There's a quick question.
Go ahead, Ms. Davis.
Yes, Chief. Can you give us like a sample scenario of how this will work?
Yes. So if we've got, let me start with what we currently have and then what we're adding on. What we currently have is a network of LPR cameras, that's license plate reader cameras. So if a stolen vehicle comes by one of these cameras, every Fairburn officer on duty around the city is going to get a real-time live alert saying a stolen car just came southbound on Main Street. So we can start moving in position. What we're building onto that is the live monitoring component, which I will say up front, this is a base of what we'd like to see into the future. Right now, we're asking for 6 cameras that this officer inside of the police department will be sitting and monitoring in real time. So you're talking about if we're having an issue with traffic at 74 and Oakley Industrial Boulevard, for example. I know you guys probably get calls when those lights go down. Instead of waiting to get the call or waiting for an officer to roll across it, we may have somebody sitting in the building who's going to say, hey, those lights are flashing red. We need to get out there. We need to notify GDOT. In addition, if there is an officer monitoring these cameras while listening to their radio, they may hear a call come out over the air on the radio and immediately be able to cut to those cameras live in real time and say, for example, let's say there's a red car involved in a robbery at a business. You jump to the nearest camera, you may actually have a live look at that red car fleeing the scene of the crime, and then we can start to jump to different cameras and follow that car so we can have an idea of where it's going. That's the long-term goal. The long-term goal is to have cameras at every key location around the city and somebody monitoring them 24/7. Right now, with this request that we're asking for tonight, it'll be the first step. So we'll have one person in charge of the real-time crime center with the goal in the sometime future to be having somebody monitoring this 24/7. So at all times, the Fairburn Police Department has eyes in key locations around the city.
Did they have this in another county when an individual went into a doctor's office and shot someone and they ran and they were actually able to catch that person exactly? Is that the
I'm
same?
not familiar with that specific example, but I do know
sounds
that
like
we're not
it.
the first one to implement this in our
Yeah.
area. Some of our neighboring jurisdictions have already implemented this,
Yeah.
which is also what kind of helped us make up our mind as to which system we were going to go with.
Yeah.
But that's the gist of it, that it's
Yeah.
real-time crime center. So the sergeant inside the police department is going to be live monitoring cameras all over the city. And the further benefit of this is that if the person watching these live feed cameras sees a crime happen before it's dispatched over the 911 system, we can actually live dispatch our own officers to the scene of that crime. So if one of my guys happens to be monitoring a camera at a key location and sees something go sideways,
Right.
the person in the real-time crime center can live dispatch an officer faster than you can call 911.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks. It sounds like what happened there, because they were able to capture that guy. It was on, and they had said it was because of the system that they had. If they
Yes.
had not had that system, they would not have been able to locate him.
In a nutshell, technology is definitely going to be the way of the future with law enforcement. I think I said it during the budget request that cameras are cheaper than police officers, so we want to keep going that way.
Thanks, Chief.
I'm going to go to Mr. Heath, and then I'll come to you, Ms. Hudson. Go ahead, Mr. Heath.
Is it necessary that an officer sit there and monitor that, or can be someone less expensive to?
Excellent question. Yes, sir. What we're asking for right now is it's a sergeant position that we asked for during the budgeting process to be in charge of this unit. You're absolutely right. It doesn't have to be all sworn personnel monitoring these cameras. You can't have non-sworn personnel monitoring the cameras. Our goal, of course, right now is to stand up the unit and to ideally build it out sometime in the future.
Got it. Thank you.
Sir.
Ms. Hudson?
Yes, thank you, Chief, for that. I do remember that we did talk about this during the FY22 budget hearing.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
some of my questions that I have to you is about the rate of violent crimes compared to the rate of property crimes. We have right now more property offenses in Fairburn than we do violent crimes. So we have to have more discussion and possibly a plan soon to address property crimes. So for example, violent crimes, we had about 56, and for property, that was 225. So I would like to have more discussion or, possibly a plan that you will have in place to begin to address the intimate parts of our community where property violation is occurring. And I was just wondering, with you establishing a real-time crime center, how would we then begin to address the property crimes against property?
Yes, ma'am. Excellent question. So with the property crime, the real-time crime center can help in that regard, especially because vehicles are more often than not used in the commission of property crime. So when you start to combine the existing LPR cameras we have, the one we'd like to add on as part of this agreement, as well as the live monitoring of the live cameras, I do think that's going to be beneficial for us to combat property crime. In many cases, not always, but in many cases, the offenders we see who are committing these property crimes are driving stolen vehicles or vehicles that have no license plates on them, vehicles that have altered the license plate, switched it from one car to another. And the cameras we have, I think, will be hugely beneficial in identifying them, ideally pre-crime, so we can get over there and prevent that crime from occurring.
So you're saying that crimes against property is more likely to be conducted with a person using a stolen vehicle?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay. So when we're using the flock cameras now, what areas are you targeting?
Primarily our heavily trafficked areas with the most vehicle traffic that comes through the city. We also have an eye on general areas where certain property crimes are more prevalent. In particular, entering auto, which is a car break-in, is the #1 crime we try to address and deal with. And we know that those occur more often in areas where there are a lot of cars that are not being actively watched. We have more entering auto crime in commercial areas where there are a large number of cars parked in a lot that may or may not have a security guard present or any kind of entryway gate, gated access to the property. We see a higher number of car break-ins in those locations as opposed to residential areas. So we do have that in mind as well when we're placing these cameras.
First of all, I want you to know I support the flock cameras. However, I'm still concerned that there's really no solid plan in place to address the highest number of issues that we have with property here in the city of Fairburn. So I would like to ask that if you will consider a pilot program of bringing back a plan to council on how you're going to concentrate on reducing the number of property crimes versus violent crimes. Yes, we want you there for violent crimes. Got to have that. But the numbers are staggering with property, and we have to address this. Thank you.
Any other members of council?
One question.
Go ahead, sir.
You said something that was on my mind, because I know the flock cameras, I'm kind of familiar with them, watching news and stuff. So you did say that it alerts with a car that has a tag that the car is registered as stolen, but then you just spoke also about the alter tags or the no tags. So how does the flock camera work with that? So somebody's monitoring, does that catch the flock camera as well, the no tags or the alter tags?
I'll have to get back to you on a specific answer on the alter tags. I'm not that in-depth familiar with the software. What I do know is that the live monitoring cameras is if we get a description of a red SUV or a white pickup truck leaving the scene of a crime, the live monitoring portion will pick up the fact that there's a white pickup truck in that area that we can then start live dispatching those officers to. In addition, this data that we get from these cameras, it's on a rolling 30-day period. So even if we don't catch it in the moment while the crime is occurring, when we assign a detective to it, they can go back and look and say, oh, well, there's the white pickup truck. It wasn't the tag that's supposed to be on there, which is also going to kind of point us in the right direction. If maybe a day or two later, when an investigator starts looking at it and sees, hey, that tag doesn't match that vehicle, right off the bat, that's going to be our probably primary suspect.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other members of council? Seeing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries.
The next item is number 8, ratification of professional services agreement with iParametrics LLC for grant writing services. This is a recommendation for mayor and council to ratify the professional services agreement with iParametrics LLC for grant writing services in an amount not to exceed $75,000 for fiscal year 2025. Finance Department.
Yes, good evening. Item before you is to ratify the professional services agreement with iParamedics for grant writing services for fiscal year 2025. This amount, budget impact is $75,000, which was approved in the fiscal year 2025 budget. iParamedics has supported clients in all 50 states with grant management and grant writing services. Most recently in Georgia, iParamedics helped the city of Stone Mountain secure a $200,000 LCI grant and assisting Newton County in securing over $4 million via HUD to support the county's recreational facility, along with $1 million in Department of Transportation funding for roadway expansion. iParamedics was chosen to be the grant writing consultant after an extensive RFP process initiated September 2025. The original contract initial term started December of 2023. During that time, iParamedics has successfully applied for 11 grants totaling more than $7 million in requests from January 2024 through April 2024. The city has received confirmation from the congressional project funding for the water supply project that we are on the list to be sent to the committee for consideration of an award in the amount of $1.5 million. Additionally, the city was awarded the Fulton County Arts and Culture Grant in the amount of $22,500. The city is still awaiting a decision on a number of applications to include the Georgia Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant with a request of amounts $150,000, National Endowment for the Arts with a request amount of $32,335, and SAFER grant to fund additional fire personnel. It is the request of the mayor and council for the approval to ratify the professional service agreement with iParamedics LLC for grant writing services in the amount not to exceed $75,000 for fiscal year 2025. Thank you. Any questions?
Members of council, you have before you the ratification of professional services agreement with iParamedics. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Bring it to the floor first.
Second.
Is there a second? Okay, motion is made and second. Start with Mr. Smallwood, then Mr. Whitmore.
Yes, I have a question. So the original contract started December of last year to now, and I heard you say we are awaiting approval on a couple grants.
Yes, sir.
But bottom line dollars, how much in grant money have we received during this contract, the contract that, started in December?
22. 22.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Council members. I can get with the iParametrics team tomorrow and ask Mr. Phillips to send that to you. There are a number of grants. I don't have the complete list of the ones we've received. I know they helped Fire write another grant, and I think they may have assisted PD with some, but I want to make sure we give you an accurate total to your response.
Okay, but what we heard tonight was just that 22.5, right?
It was a 22.5, yes, that we did receive. The other one is on a short list for the congressional one.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Whitmore?
Yes, don't go anywhere, ma'am.
Sorry, sir.
No problems, no problems. So I understand we're in a list, but there's no guarantee we're going to get that 1.5, all right? Also, you mentioned that Fire receives something from them. Is that correct?
So they assisted Fire with applying for several grants. The grant that's currently out there is a SAFER grant, which helps cities pay for the personnel services to acquire additional firefighters. We have not received an award on that one as of yet, and so that one is outstanding.
Yeah. So in essence, the only thing to our knowledge to this date that we have received since December of 23 is $22,500.
I don't want to say absolutely yes, that's the one I know that we just got because that came before council a few weeks ago, but I can verify with the iParametrics team. I will tell you in consultation with the previous finance director, because this was a service that the city didn't have previously, there was a race to get with iParametrics with the department heads to apply for grants. I can tell you iParametrics actually met with every department head. Some of the grants that they wrote were grants that we didn't necessarily, that they probably shouldn't have focused on. Some grants, I think they were for $8,000. Our goal when we started the pilot program last year was to go after those larger dollar numbers. If this item is approved tonight, we've shared with them the grant that was shared with us by Councilwoman Portis Jones. I think it's due October 31st. That one is for, I want to say, Parks and Recreation Infrastructure for a project with a $500,000 award that requires a match. And so if approved tonight, they will be prepared to work with our Parks and Recreation Director to ensure that we submit an application by the 31st.
Is there any reason why they are not here tonight to present this to council?
Nothing in particular. I know that the vendor came when we initially awarded it back in a work session last year. It wasn't an initial request, but I'm sure if that is the will of council, we can definitely contact them and ask them to come back.
And because what I'm hearing and what I'm feeling is that if this is approved tonight, then they're going to do something by the end of this month. But to date, based on the information that you currently have, and we paid them how much from December of last year to the 30th of September?
So the contract period was from, I believe, January to April. The dollars that were awarded, it was just under $50,000. Now, I will tell you there are a number of projects. They've been working with us with ARC. We sent them a number, I think about 9 locations around the city for potential EV charging locations based on the funding that the state of Georgia has received to put chargers within the region. And so they helped us with those communications and putting that information out there. So there are a number of grants that are still outstanding, but I can make sure that we provide council with a complete list.
Yeah, because we're using the word ratification, right? Which means what?
So, okay. When speaking with the city attorney, the contract date is for to go back to October 1st through September 30th. We wanted to run concurrent with our fiscal year. With the agreement that was in place, I know that there were some language changes that were done. They weren't substantive to the actual contract, but the request is to have it effective October 1st through September 30th for the complete fiscal year.
Yeah, well, is my time up?
No, you still got 3 minutes.
Oh, still got 3 minutes. I'm feeling some kind of way, ma'am. I feel that when someone is coming before this council and asking for $75,000, they should be coming with information showing what we have received, what they have out there pending and what those dollar amounts are. And, you know, because we don't know if we're going to get anything at all, except for the 22.5 that you mentioned tonight. So that doesn't weigh too favorably with me.
Received.
Ms. Davis?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Gosh. Yeah, I need some clarity under the facts and issues, and I guess this is related to previous questions before. You're saying during their initial contract term that they successfully applied for 11 grants totaling $7 million, but how much of that was actually granted? Of that $7 million. I mean, this sounds nice that they successfully applied, but were they successful in getting the grants? And it relates to the the previous questions that have been asked.
I don't want to take time from mayor and council, but I will pull the information and get with iParametrics. If it's the will of council tonight, if you all want to hold this item, I can ask the vendor to, if they're available at our next meeting on the 28th, if they're available for a work session with mayor and council, that way they can bring that information to you all prior to a vote on this item.
Yeah, I would, yes, they need to be here. I'm in agreement with my colleagues about that.
Before we take a vote, Ms. Hudson, you wanted to say something? Okay. Okay, she didn't hear me. Can I entertain a motion? I guess in this case, a motion.
Mayor, I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm sorry, I had a glitch, real quickly. Listen, I agree with Councilwoman Davis and Mayor Pro Tem Whitmore. Additionally, when we're bringing forth this type of item, you all are receiving monthly invoices for billing. That should be a part of this because it's a part of the process. In not having the list of the grants, I do remember when we went to the National League of Cities, I communicated back with staff and Mr. Phillips about a infrastructure grant. I don't know if that's one and the same or what Councilwoman Portis-Jones had, but there was communication and email about making sure a deadline was in place to get that grant. I want to know what the barriers and the challenges are. So I'm giving you all this information so that you can take back to them, because what we don't want is the same information to be presented in a work session again. I believe every member on council is very aware what they were expecting about what we were expecting about this grant writing. So presenting this item on the agenda is missing a lot of information. We have to know what the benchmarks are in place. Is that in the contract? I read through the contract and it was confusing because on the agenda it said ratification, but the contract came to us as a renewal. So which is it? We're ratifying now. We know that you want to ratify to make it to sync with the date of October 1st, so there is no gap. So coming back to the work session, I'm gonna say it again. I want to know how we were billed and what work was billed every month, since they're submitting monthly invoices. I want to know the list of grants that they applied for, along with whatever barriers and challenges that they foresee in Fairburn being awarded those grants. And I think with that will be enough for me right now. $75,000 is a lot. I think we awarded $35,000 or $30,000 in December for that. But now we're moving forward with $75,000. We need to see if we are applying for grants that are within our wheelhouse that we can get. I also want to be very clear. When you mentioned ARC, that we have the LCI project that was already awarded to us. So I would like to see if there was any applications for grants to ARC, because I'm well aware now, after the training, what is out there and what we should be looking for as a terms of a city for grants. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Hudson. Can I entertain a motion to hold?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made in second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries. Last item.
The next item is number 9, trimming, clearing contract with Trees Unlimited. This is a recommendation for mayor and council to approve the agreement with Trees Unlimited to clear the right-of-way of tree limbs and heavy vegetation for the protection of the overhead electric distribution infrastructure, and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement in an amount not to exceed $175,000. The Utilities Department.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Sir.
Good evening.
Yes, we are here to request your authorization to sign this agreement. This is Trees Unlimited. They've been working to trim our right-of-ways for several years. They were vetted through the process with Electric Cities of Georgia as a service they provide to the cities. They were the cheaper of the two contractors that won the bid. And this was a budgeted amount not to exceed $175, which should be plenty enough time to trim our whole system everywhere we've got all these limbs hanging over the lines. This will help reduce our incidental and sustained outages that were so prevalent earlier this summer, which have gotten better, knock on wood. So basically, that's what it is. It's a maintenance item, something that we need to do to try to keep going in the right direction.
Okay. Members of council, you have before you a record trimming and clearing contract with Trees Unlimited. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is made and properly seconded. Any questions or comments by council? Mr. Whitmore?
Yes, sir. Have you already identified all the trimming that needs to take place throughout the city?
I personally have not, but Tom has. You talk to him.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Yes, I've done a pretty resolute study of where we need to concentrate on. We know that we need to concentrate on the Rivertown Road area. We need to concentrate on in between Cemetery and Lane Drive here at Malone. Also on the Highway 92 corridor. It's very difficult. We're really being aggressive this year, and we've moved forward with having Trees Unlimited. They're going to bring a giraffe, which has a reach of 75 feet, to be able to cut all the way up the base of the trees and back down, so there won't be any tree limbs near the lines.
Okay, and you have this list prioritized so we can just hit the ground running?
Yes, sir. With the mayor and council's approval, that will start tomorrow morning.
Wow. Okay, Ms. Davis?
Yes, very similar question. I think the last time we did this, we actually had a list of the areas that we're going to do along with the request for the money. And that's what I was looking for. But I see these maps here.
Yes,
That
ma'am.
doesn't dig. So is there a way we could get a list of the areas that you're going to do the trimming? 'Cause
Yes,
did-
ma'am. I put the circuit maps in the council package so they could at least identify the areas of concentration. But if you desire an exact list, I can put one together for you and have it for you.
Did we not have one before? I remember us having one before.
I don't recall if we had, because I know we used the maps. We may have, and I don't want to misspeak.
I remember because you added one.
But to Tom's point, we can certainly generate the list. It will be a list of what's reflected on that map, but we can certainly generate a list by street name.
Okay. I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Actually,
Yes, sir. Go ahead,
you
sir.
may remember the amounts higher than before. We found out we just didn't have enough money to actually trim. So the plan this year is to trim the whole system.
Okay.
So
Okay.
all the streets.
Okay.
Question?
Go ahead, ma'am.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, so I wanted to ask about, I know the last time we had the conversation, we ran out of money because of the emergencies that occurred, right? The unpredictability of the weather, unplanned areas where tree limbs fell that wasn't part of the original schedule. how are we going to accommodate that this year? Is there a different pot for emergencies? Because you're saying that the 175 that you're asking for now is to cover the whole city, but there will be areas where it may not have been part of the plan, where lightning strikes or an issue with a tree limb, et cetera, which adds, to the cost. So, two question, is it Trees Unlimited that will be doing that work? And then secondly, are there other monies set aside for the emergencies, or is that part of the 175 that you're requesting?
So as far as trees falling and things of that nature, that does not fall under them. They're basically just for clearing and trimming. But in that regards, if there are things that happen even during business hours, if they're on our system working, then we can call them to go take care of it. Our guys also have chainsaws. If it's a service, for example, which actually was last week, just last week we had to do a service because it was pulling down on somebody's service and causing a problem. Smaller ones like that, our guys take care of. But just for going down the roadways and things of that nature, that's what they would be doing.
Okay, but this is the comprehensive budget, though, and because I just want to make sure, we ran out of money last time because of, there was just a lot of unforeseen and unplanned events. And I just want to know that we are, since we've had that experience, that we've now accommodated that potential in this proposed budget or contract.
Yes, we think we will, and the other thing is, with all this rain we've had, there's been a exponential growth this year. So that was another reason there'll be a lot more of trimming by volume because they're closer to the lines and things of that nature. So the plan is to use that money to clean everything. I think last year was 50 or 55, so we didn't get enough done. So this has enough in there, should encompass everything.
Okay. All right, well, we'll see what the year brings. So hopefully the 175 is enough. Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, just a follow-up. So with your plan, okay, and they're going to start, if this is approved tonight, tomorrow, all right? And so we know for a fact that they'll be able to execute, well, let me ask the question this way. They're going to be here 5 days a week?
Barring a storm or, anything could happen. We don't want them working in the rain, obviously. So if it's bad weather, they don't work. There are instances where they have a truck breakdown or something, so that day they would not work. But generally speaking, yes.
So what you're saying to me, the plan is, barring bad weather, they will be here Monday through Friday, barring bad weather, and execute the whole plan. That's what I'm hearing?
Yes. And holidays, we don't want them working, we're not here. So if there's a holiday, they won't work either.
All right, thank you.
Any other member of council for this item? Okay, and none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
Give me 1 second, make sure at this point, I'll start with city council comment. Ms. Hudson, I'll go ahead and start with you.
Wow, I had a question before we went to comment, but I'll go. We are have to be diligent in making sure to the public that you are participating in these public opportunities. I asked for an update on the Water Authority because there are some concerns that I have. And in March, we were told that the city attorney will be looking through and providing us information about the contractual agreement or if it was ironclad. I know that now to be different. I also know the minutes have not been updated yet to the Water Authority, but Mr. Phillips, I need that update. Meter reading concerns have come forward, and I want to thank the utility director for reaching out directly to me and speaking with me about those concerns. But we know that there are some concerns. We have utility bills being posted on social media, so we definitely want to address. If citizens have qualified for a budget billing and for some reason, they were not renewed. We need to make sure that we track and trace why and get those citizens back on those budget billings. Again, I want to thank the utility director. Thank you to those who came out to speak tonight. Let's be proactive and not reactive. I urge the citizens to go to the Fairburn website and participate in the comp plan survey. I'll be even more convenient and post it on my social media. We need to hear from you. Make sure that you complete that. And finally, you all, I want to make sure that I highlight voting. It is important that you all get out to vote. Early voting has begun. Let your voice be made known. I am done, and good night.
Thank you so much. Have one of this. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, mine will be short. I've received a couple of concerns in reference to the fire at the landfill that happened on Friday. And the questions that came out, which I did not have answers for, is whether or not there was any air quality concerns. Have not received any information about it, but to prevent me from making all the phone calls, we have a PR person, and this is one of the avenues that could have been used, all right, when we have that type of a fire, especially with what happened years ago with the Indwell fire within the city of South Fulton. The questions that came before me from members of that community, because they are so close to that landfill, and I think that this is an opportunity to use the PR person to put the word out. In particularly, because if we start having people with breathing issues or start getting rashes and so on and so forth because of this, there's a concern, but they may not, everybody may not know about it. So I'm just urging the command staff to please, let's utilize it for not just boiling water, but also other areas of concern of health as this fire produced. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Smallwood.
I'll just be brief, just echo the sentiment behind just the citizens showing up and really taking part of the process. I came at 6 and I saw a lot of people showing up, which is wonderful. But there were 2 proposals proposed or, on the books tonight, and seems like one community did come out and another one not so much. So just please, everybody in Fairburn, please come and take part of the process, because I did get emails, which is why I speak how I speak. I know people may not have shown up to the meetings, but I did get emails about both of the proposals. So, but let's just make sure we show up, when those community meetings are happening. And yes, please go out and vote, vote, vote. All right, thank you.
Ms. Porter-Jones.
No comments, Mayor.
Okay. Mr. Heath.
I just want to thank everyone that came out tonight, especially with the type things that we were actually voting on. It's great to hear from people, hear their voices and their input, and I, for one, really appreciate that. And I just want to say, everybody get out and vote. Okay, early voting, I think, starts tomorrow.
Yep.
If I'm not mistaken. Thank you.
Ms. Davis.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I was absent at the last council meeting, and there are 2 things that I would like to do or say. Mr. Phillips, can you introduce me to the new finance director, please?
Absolutely, Councilwoman Davis. Our new finance director was introduced at the last meeting, but it is Ms. Tamika Billingsley, who brings to our team here at Fairburn over 30 years of experience in finance, most recently with the Fulton County School Board. And so she is now a member of Team Fairburn. She has hit the ground running. She has a wealth of experience, as I mentioned, and has already started productive work with the team, and we're excited about her being added to our team here in Fairburn.
Awesome. I read the information in the minutes, but I wanted to be introduced to you, so welcome aboard. And the other thing that I wasn't able to do because I was absent was congratulate Ms. Dina Robertson Ray as Georgia Certified Clerk.
Thank you so much.
You are so deserving. We are happy that you are here with the city of Fairburn. And I would like to remind everybody to go vote, 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 vote. Thank you.
In my comments, I want to congratulate again Ms. Hudson. I think you're getting married in the next few days, so I want to congratulate you publicly on that. I want to just
Thank you.
Yes, yes, ma'am. I want to just also thank all the different people and mayors and county commissioners that came to the Fairburn Fall Festival. Let me publicly thank our staff for just a phenomenal job from top to bottom. There was mayors, and I've heard comments from every level of government about how great this was, and so to make sure real clear that the statements that really took blessed me, ladies and gentlemen, was between Rocco, Bow Wow, Pastor Troy, and there's one other one indicated, and I had asked someone, what does it mean to have a clean event? And so they kept speaking about a clean event, so I actually asked Bow Wow's security people, and it indicated that that means in this industry, a clean event means you can bring your children to it. And so one of them actually brought their children after they performed, had them brought to the event. So I want to just say thank God for our public safety. The volume of police presence was beyond belief from all the other agencies as well as public safety as a whole. So again, I want to thank our staff from top to bottom. Our employees came to work early in the morning and made it a very successful event. And then the thing I want to say too, ladies and gentlemen, with the volume of people that was stretched over 10 blocks, not a single police incident in the city. So we take that for granted. Which was one of the questions that was asked to me at the interview on Good Day Atlanta that Wednesday prior to the festival. What's your security plan? And so it was blessed. So with that being said, Mr. City Attorney, we have a...
It's my understanding that there is executive session on the real estate matter, no?
Okay.
There is, and I was...
Okay, with that being said,
misunderstood.
Can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries.
Oh, man.
I know. Derek.
No.